We have finally reached the 2023 NFL draft, and today I'm going to take you through my final NFL mock draft, the 3.0 over on Football Guys. Let's get into it. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Devy Royale YouTube channel. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if you like this video. Today, we are going to be talking through my 2023 NFL Mock Draft 3.0. I'm very excited. Draft season is my favorite season of the year. So, I'm not gonna, but you know what a mock is. So let's get into it. Pick one. The Carolina Panthers are on the clock, but the draft technically starts at 2 this year because I feel while there was some betting movement late because of a Redditor, I feel like Bryce Young is pretty locked in to be the first overall pick, just in terms of his football IQ and everything that he can do from a mental standpoint. I think that's what separates Bryce in the eyes of the Carolina Panthers. So here he comes off the board at number 1. Number 2 is where the draft starts, as I said, and number 2, I think they're going to pass on a quarterback. I really do. There's been too much smoke there for it not to be real. So here I am going Tyree Wilson, the edge out of Texas Tech. Big, long, bendy, raw. There are some problems injury wise, and I think as long as he checks out, he's going to be a top 10 pick for sure. I wouldn't put it past the Texans to plug him into what they're trying to do right now as well. And a lot of people say, well, they won't take Tyree Wilson over Will Anderson. Will Anderson isn't viewed as a scheme fit for every single team now. I think that he could fit into what the Texans are going to deploy this year, but Tyree Wilson seems to have the most buzz going forward, and so I put him here. You will notice on your screen that the Detroit Lions are sitting at the 3rd overall pick. I did project a trade up, and that was for a quarterback, and that is Anthony Richardson. In the trade, Arizona sent the number 3 and number 105 picks to Detroit for number 6, number 48, and a 2024 first-round pick. Hefty price, but Detroit will not be picking this high again, and that is the basis behind trading up or taking a quarterback here in the first round. Jared Goff is good, and he was more than feasible for them last year, and that worked out well for them. But if you're trying to win Super Bowls and you look around the league and say, can we do that with Jared Goff if everything's perfect? Anthony Richardson's ceiling indicates that that might not be the case here in a couple of years. And this is a perfect situation. He can sit behind Goff for a year. The Lions will still make the playoffs, most likely, and everything's going to be good for Detroit. So while it was a hefty price, I think this is the right move. Go get the toolsy guy, develop him, and you could potentially have a top 5 quarterback in the NFL and just continue your dynasty because you've got a damn good team already. Number 4, the Colts are still sitting here. Will Levis seems to be their target. I gave them Will Levis. I think if Will Levis is on the board, he is the pick that will come on draft night. There's a chance that he goes before this. Yeah, I think he's the betting favorite to be the QB2 off the board. I can't wrap my head around it, especially after Bruce Feldman wrote a really nice piece on The Athletic, and it was a ton of quarterback coaches, and they all had rave reviews about Anthony Richardson and Will Levis. They said, we don't necessarily really get it. And so, but I do think that the Colts are in on him. He's a big kid, toolsy, big arm. There are things to like about Will Levis's game. It's just, can he process the field? And have we seen a ceiling? Maybe, I guess, would be a question. But here he's off the board to the Colts at 4. Number 5, Will Anderson Jr. This is the easiest pick of this mock draft. If Will Anderson falls to 5, the Seahawks should sprint the pickup. I understand that the same notion as Detroit. Maybe you take a quarterback. I think you can kick the can down the road a little bit. I think, they give Geno an extension this year, so you have some time. Will Anderson Jr. is one of those guys that fits exactly what the Seahawks are trying to do on defense, would be an immediate upgrade from Darrell Taylor and even Uchenna Nwosu. And I mean, this defensive line, once we get done here today, would be pretty fantastic. So the Seahawks are in the midst of trying to build their own little dynasty here once again. Number 6, this is where the Lions traded up from. Cardinals are sitting here. It seems like their target is going to be Paris Johnson Jr., the offensive tackle from Ohio State. A big kid, raw, a lot of good things on his film. Just an incredible athlete, an elite mover. He has, both sides. He's played on both sides. There are a lot of things to really like about Paris Johnson Jr. He's not my personal offensive tackle one. I think Broderick Jones has a similar ceiling, and he displayed a lot more in the running game. But I understand why teams are enamored by Paris Johnson Jr. And it sounds like Kyler Murray might have some input on this pick, and he wants Paris Johnson Jr. So we'll see if this comes to fruition. But that seems to be the favorite to be going to the Arizona Cardinals, wherever that pick may be. Number 7, Devon Witherspoon normally isn't here when I do mock drafts because I normally would give him to the Detroit Lions, but he was here in this case, and I think this is an easy pick if you're the Raiders. I think a guy that is sticky in man coverage is, once again, kind of like Bryce Young, just one of the smartest football players on the field on the defensive side of the ball, and he's got the CB1 mentality, and I think that that's what's going to separate him from maybe some of these other tier 1, tier 2 guys. Devon Witherspoon, my CB1, and just a fantastic football player. Number 8, Nolan Smith, edge rusher. I've been on this since mock draft 1.0, and honestly, there are a lot of different ways that this could go. I think a lot of Falcons fans would prefer they take CJ Stroud here, but Nolan Smith, you keep him in state, and you get a bendy edge rusher that we probably haven't seen his best football yet. But the intangible stuff, the leadership stuff, that is the makings of having a really good team, and the Falcons have a really good shot to win their division this year. I think this is the type of guy that you want to go get and keep on your team for a decade. Number 9, I flirted with Bijan Robinson so hard, but I didn't go that way. I went Peter Skovronski, the offensive tackle from Northwestern. Ryan Poles has mentioned that he likes drafting Chicago guys and guys that grew up Bears fans because they understand Chicago Bears football and what it should be. Peter Skovronski is a local kid, and he's got fantastic film. I think he could make a case to be the offensive tackle 1. Some question if he can even play offensive tackle at the NFL level. I think that's crazy. I think that he has that ability based on simply his technique and his footwork and everything that he does really well. The length is a problem. If he doesn't work at tackle, you get an all-pro guard. And so I think that that's a no-brainer pick for the Bears, who definitely need to beef up that offensive line. Number 10, Lucas Van Ness. Philly fans, I know you hate this. I get it. I also hate this. This is a kid that's juiced with potential that I'm not sure he's ever going to reach it. But if he is ever going to reach it, this is the team to be on. He's got the ability to come in certain packages and just, develop on the sidelines and develop in practice and things like that. He doesn't really have a toolbox right now, but he has an elite, powerful game. His hands are explosive. He sent Paris Johnson to the ground a couple of times when Iowa played Ohio State. So there are a lot of good things to like about his film. I think he's a little too raw to be taking in the top 10. I think this is a back end of the first type of guy, maybe. But I think the Eagles are going to be enamored by that athleticism, and it is a position of need for the Eagles. The Eagles low-key lost a lot on defense this year. Number 11, the CJ Stroud fall ceases. CJ Stroud to the Tennessee Titans. I struggle with this because I don't think the Titans are in a position to go get a quarterback of the future. On the other side of things, I don't think most teams, when they get their quarterback of the future, are in a position to allow them to succeed. The Titans have done a fine job in kind of getting a makeshift offensive line to put in front of someone like CJ Stroud. The weapons are not there, and obviously the Titans would need to do a little bit more, but if he falls to 11, I think that this is a good pick and one that kind of fits what I think Vrabel's trying to do as well, and what he likes in his quarterback. So number 11, CJ Stroud. Number 12, Jalen Carter. That fall-ish ends as well, defensive tackle out of Georgia. Based on talent, Jalen Carter is arguably the best player in this class. With the off-field concerns, obviously there's reason to be concerned, and I think one scout or former NFL personnel person put it as, I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole, and this is a guy that has leniency and has drafted guys with character concerns. So I think that we could see an even bigger fall, but I think if there's a team that's going to take a shot on him here in the 10 to 20 range, it's the Houston Texans for sure. Number 13, Green Bay Packers recently traded up to this pick. This is what threw my whole mock draft off. I wrote the whole thing, had to rewrite the whole thing after the Aaron Rodgers trade because I think the Packers wanted to get ahead of New England in order to go get a wide receiver. I know the Packers don't draft wide receivers in the first round. I understand that. However, this team desperately needs a wide receiver, and now you don't have Aaron Rodgers to bail you out. You have Jordan Love, who probably needs a little bit better players around him. Jackson Smith-Njigba is clearly the top receiver in this class, in my opinion. And here he fits perfectly with what the Packers are trying to do on offense. No brainer pick for me. And, keep throwing my mocks off, Brian Kuntz. I don't like that. 14, New England Patriots, Zay Flowers, wide receiver out of Boston College. It seems like they're obsessed with Zay Flowers. And I they've met with him, I think 3 or 4 different times, whether it was at the East West Shrine Bowl, whether it was at a private visit, top 30 visit. I think the Patriots are obsessed with the notion that Zay Flowers has that Antonio Brown upside. I do not see that. Please do not put those words in my mouth. I think he's a good player, and I think that he can be a fine player. He's really nice after the catch, which if you have Mac Jones, you need a guy that's good after the catch. Zay Flowers kind of fits that to a T. I think not getting an offensive tackle here is one of the biggest mistakes, but the Patriots tend to make mistakes in the first round. Let's not forget that. Once again, you'll notice there is a different team here at 15, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They traded up with the New York Jets. The Jets sent 15 to Jacksonville for number 24, number 88, and number 121. So a pretty big price, but a pretty nice player to get. Definitely worth it. Christian Gonzalez started to fall in this mock, and I don't see how the Jaguars aren't adding to that secondary. I know they have some starters, but they don't have a lot of youth outside of Tyson Campbell. Christian Gonzalez kind of fits exactly what they need as at their number 2 corner. Just an elite athlete, great movement skills. I think I mentioned mentality for Devon Witherspoon, and I think that is what separates him from maybe the rest of the class. But I understand why teams are enamored by the size speed combo of Christian Gonzalez. 16, Michael Mayer to the Washington Commanders. This was one that I keep flirting. I think the Commanders definitely need a corner. I also think that Michael Mayer is going to get drafted a little higher than what people are expecting right now. Most well-rounded tight end in the class, good athlete, not a great athlete, but like he's still a fine athlete. And he's an elite bailout type of guy. If you just throw a jump ball up to him, his catch radius is a lot larger than it looks. And honestly, that's all the Notre Dame offense has been over the last couple of years. So I think this is a good situation to put Sam Howell in. That's a slew of weapons. Sam Howell is set up for success right now. So Michael Mayer here to Washington. 17, Pittsburgh Steelers. Deontay Banks, the corner out of Maryland. I think Deontay Banks has a chance to be CB2 off the board. I talked about Christian Gonzalez being an elite athlete. He's not even as athletic as Deontay Banks. One of the stickiest man coverage corners in the class. And elite upside. His zone coverage stuff definitely needs work. The Steelers, I think, are going to be enamored by a guy that can move like that because that's Steelers football for you. Number 18, Los Angeles Chargers also traded up. I had a few trades in this, obviously. Detroit sent number 18 to Los Angeles for 21, 125, and 156. This move was to go get Bijan Robinson. The Austin Eckler unhappiness and the lack of really nothing behind Austin Eckler there in Los Angeles makes this a worthwhile pick. Bijan Robinson is a value pick anytime after like 5. He's a fantastic player. I understand he's a running back. He is a difference maker, though. He is not just a running back. That is an important thing to keep in mind when we're talking about Bijan Robinson. I honestly, as I was mocking, I felt like Bijan had to go earlier than this. It's just really tough to find a landing spot for him, and I think that this would be a really nice one here at 18 to the Chargers. All right, I'm going to put 19 through 31 on the board. Broderick Jones to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just an easy no-brainer. Let's go get our other tackle of the future to put opposite Tristan Wirfs. Easy pick. It's second easiest pick, I think. Number 20, Seattle Seahawks. This is a position I thought I would want to take a quarterback here. I didn't. Hendon Hooker is just not going to move the needle for me. So I went with Adetomiwa Adebawore, the edge slash defensive tackle out of Northwestern. I think he's going to probably push for the first round simply because we've seen the Kalijah Cansey hype, and I think Adebawore has more length, and I think he's just as explosive. I think he's just as versatile as well. So this is definitely a Seattle Seahawks type of pick where you just beef up, go 2 defensive linemen, and kind of roll with that. 21, Detroit Lions. This is a pick I've never made, and it felt gross doing it, but Joey Porter Jr., the corner out of Penn State, I know Detroit signed some corners, but they also just traded Jeffrey Okudah. They weren't going to pay him. I think you go get some youth. A lot of those deals are one-year deals. Joey Porter Jr. could start to fall in this draft. There's some rumors that a lot of teams think he's too stiff and might not have the long speed. But I think that in terms of what the Lions have had over the last few years, you're getting a nice solid replacement for Jeffrey Okudah. And here I feel like he's a value personally. 22, Baltimore Ravens, Myles Murphy, edge rusher out of Clemson. It just didn't fall the way I thought it would. I kind of want the Ravens to take a receiver, but I am, this isn't a what I would do. This is certainly what I think they would do. I think they do need edge help. I think they need corner help, but I wasn't really a fan after Joey Porter Jr. came off the board. So here, Myles Murphy, great player, elite athlete, not a lot of bend, not a lot of production, so I think that's what puts him here in the 20s, but good player that I think the Ravens would be ecstatic to get. 23, this is probably the most controversial pick. Well, maybe. I don't know. You guys can tell me. Keely Ringo, corner out of Georgia to the Minnesota Vikings. I know they just selected Andrew Booth. I think they really like Andrew Booth. I also think that outside of Andrew Booth, there's not a whole lot to like in that corner room. Keely Ringo definitely does not have first-round film. I want to throw that out there. But Kwesi Adofo-Mensah just came from Cleveland. Keely Ringo hits a lot of analytical thresholds that teams like or GMs like Kwesi would look for. He runs a 4.36 40. I think that's going to matter. Another player that I think is probably a little too stiff, and I would not select him here, but I do think that there's a chance he goes in round 1. 24, Jets traded back and still got the player that I think that they probably would have taken higher up. Darnell Wright, offensive tackle out of Tennessee. There's rumors that he's going to fall in this draft due to some character concerns. I know he's been in the DMs of a lot of people that criticize him, but good player, powerful player, great athlete, massive dude. You honestly have to put pieces and protection around Aaron Rodgers if you are really going after a Super Bowl here. So Darnell Wright, offensive tackle, Tennessee, to start at right tackle. And honestly, if Mekhi Becton comes back healthy, that is one heck of a tackle duo moving forward. 25, I had the Kansas City Chiefs move up to take Dalton Kincaid, get the Travis Kelce successor. I don't feel like they're comfortable with Noah Gray. And when you have a player that's best comped to Travis Kelce, probably, I think that you have to go up and get him and just make your offense even that much more dynamic. I think a lot of teams want to play 12 personnel. I think Kincaid and Kelce can be on the field at the same time, and you can still succeed. The trade details, Giants sent 25 to Kansas City for 31 and a 2024 third-round pick. Didn't take a whole lot to move up here. Once you get a little later, the pick values are a little different. 26, Dallas Cowboys, Brian Brzee, defensive tackle out of Clemson. This was on a surprise or for potential surprise first rounders. Brian Brzee was yesterday. I would not be surprised. He's an elite athlete. He was an elite recruit. He's got elite pedigree. He doesn't have elite production, and there are a lot of things that went on in his personal life that impacted his play in 2022. But if we get the best of Brian Brzee, I think you can make a case that he could be the best defensive tackle to come out of this class. Now, I don't necessarily think that that would happen with Jalen Carter also in the class, but I think that Dallas Cowboys fans would have to be happy rotating him in with Gallimore, Oso Odigizua, Quentin Bohanna, all of those guys. I think that that's making for quite the defensive line, which you need in this division. 27, Buffalo Bills, Jack Campbell. Shout out, Jeff. He kind of rewired my thinking on this a little bit. Jack Campbell is not a first-round player to me, but I also understand that he's an elite athlete that definitely profiles as a Mike linebacker. Drew Sanders probably doesn't profile as a Mike linebacker. So here, they replaced Tremaine Edmonds with a first-round linebacker. Probably bad business. Buffalo Bills don't care sometimes. They just do that. 28 Cincinnati Bengals, Darnell Washington, the tight end out of Georgia. The Bengals certainly lost some pieces on defense, but they signed Irv Smith. Darnell Washington is such a different player. He's such a unique prospect. I think he helps in so many facets of the game that the Bengals would say, okay, maybe our right side is a little weak, but we can line Darnell up there to chip block or just kind of help out. And he can block people. He's going to be able to block edge rushers. So I think this is a move that is kind of necessary if they want to continue competing with those guys there at the top of the AFC. 29, New Orleans Saints, Keon White, edge slash defensive tackle out of Georgia Tech. He is one of my favorite players in this class. I think that he is so explosive. He is so raw, and that's a good thing because I think that he is disruptive even without a ton in his toolbox. He's powerful, and he's a really, really great athlete. I think that he is going to sneak into round one, and he's invited to the draft. So that's a cool thing. Hopefully he gets to hear his name called on night one. 30, Pittsburgh Steelers from Philadelphia. The trade, Philadelphia sent number 30 to Pittsburgh for 32 and a conditional 2024 fourth round pick for Jordan Addison. I have the Steelers doing some crazy things in this mock draft. We're only going through round one. So if you are interested, make sure you go to footballguys.com and check out the rest of it. It's a 3-rounder. So there's a lot going on in it. There are a lot of player trades that I worked into it just to have some fun. But Jordan Addison, you get Kenny Pickett, his top receiver back, and I think you're cooking as much as Kenny Pickett can cook at least. And then rounding out the first round with pick 31, technically 32, the Dolphins forfeited a pick a while back that I didn't mention. But the New York Giants took Kalijah Kancey, defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh. I've literally never seen this mocked. And I understand why I haven't seen this mocked. The Giants definitely have needs that supersede this, but Leonard Williams is in the final year of his atrocious deal. And I think that they might look to kind of replace him via a first round pick with a guy that profiles really well next to Dexter Lawrence. I think you're getting a formidable defensive line if you go in this direction. So that rounds it out. That is the very first round of my final mock draft. Like I said, you can catch it on footballguys.com. I think Jeff also has a mock draft out today, so make sure you check that one out as well. Let me know what you think. Let me know how crazy this mock is. I had a little fun with it. I don't like doing mock drafts without trades simply because I know that there will be trades on draft night. And while it's really tough to project trades, you're kind of just guessing. It's a lot of fun, and I hope you guys had fun with this video. If you did, make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe. We have a ton of content coming out. If you're interested in more content, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/thedevroyale. We have an awesome Discord community. I'm sure, I hope that they're watching this video right now as well. But if you feel so inclined, we do have that as well. I'll be back next week talking about non-draft stuff probably. So we'll see what I get up to, but make sure you guys are subscribed so you find out. Until next time, thank you guys for watching. Later.